What is up, Fleet fans? Welcome back to my channel. We're back to the tier lists. We are doing these once more, as I always do every single month. Now, I did skip December, but we had best of the year, best of the decade lists. I didn't want to wear you guys out, so we're back at it because it's the first month of 2020. So what you're seeing today pretty much is going to be my favorite movies to least favorite movies of the year so far. But there are a couple of films on here that I actually added to my 2019 list. Those movies are Just Mercy, Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Those will not be appearing on my 2020 best of. But everything else is basically the new releases of the year. But we're going to talk about all these things, and I'm going to rank them in tier list format. As I always do, I need your comments down below letting me know what was your favorite movie of January. What was your least favorite film? Bit inconsistent. We had some stinkers, but we're going to get into it. As always, if you guys enjoy these videos, be sure to smash that thumbs up button because it does tell me that you would like to see more. And let's start with the first movie. Now, there will be films on here that I actually didn't even review on this YouTube channel. If they're not on here, they're most likely either on Patreon or Letterboxd. Now, Letterboxd is the app that I use to log every single movie that I watch, new or old. But Weathering with You, while most will put it on their 2019 list because I know a lot of people got the chance to see it last year, I am counting the first limited or theatrical release in the United States. And the first one that I saw was in January. That's why Weathering with You is actually it's actually one of my favorite movies of the year so far. I think this film is fantastic. From the creators of Your Name, a very different story. If you're into Japanese anime, I encourage you to give this one a chance. It is your typical love story. It's kind of what you expect from this director at this point, especially after Your Name. But bringing us a film like Your Name, one of my favorite animated movies in general, it's very difficult not to make comparisons. And when you start to compare it to that movie, this film falls a tad bit short, but that takes nothing away from the greatness. If you're looking at just my 2020 list, this is one of the top films. Kind of spoiling my ranking at the end of the video, but I encourage you guys, if you love gorgeous animation, great character work, and just an overall entertaining movie, seek this one out, trying to find it. I saw the subbed version, but you can do subbed or dubbed in the theaters, and I don't know if they're still doing those releases, but it's a really good film. Next up, The Color of Space. Man, this film was wacky. It's so wacky. And it is one for me that I had a difficult time trying to figure out if I'm going to put it on the okay tier or the good tier. As of now, I'm going to put it on the okay tier, even though I gave the film close to a 70, didn't quite get there. There are things to love about this movie. There are also things to judge highly. Some of the dialogue, it's not the best. The CGI is really bad. There are so many things within the script that do not work, but when you're comparing it, one, to these other horror films that have come out in January, and two, to what I expected it to be, which wasn't much, it did surpass my expectations. It is a crazy, colorful horror film, and Nicolas Cage milks an alpaca. What more could you ask for in a movie? Next up is Ghost Stories. This is a Netflix anthology film that it just didn't quite do it for me. This gets close to the meh tier, but I still have to say this is a bad film. 4 stories, 3 of them aren't the best. 1 of them is really, really bad. Now, the 4th, actually I believe it was the 3rd, one of them, I can't remember which one, was genuinely solid. When you go 1 for 4, that's not great, and you have 4 different directors at work here. It's an Indian film, all right? There are really good filmmaking techniques within there. But when you can only nail 1 of the 4 stories, that's where the film falls flat. So it is on Netflix if you want to check it out right now. Then we have Like a Boss. It's another film that just did not work at all. I mean, my goodness, unfunny. And you have Tiffany Haddish and Rose Byrne, actors who have starred in comedies before, and those comedies rocked my world and made me crack up. So what the heck happened here? I'll tell you what happened. It's lazy, poor writing. The movie just did not work. You know, I could put this on bad or awful. I'm going to put it on awful. It's just, it did not stick with me whatsoever. I did not have a good time in the theater. It's just a comedy that is not funny. Now, I know a lot of people are going to look at me and they're going to say, Austin, you're going to put Dolittle on awful, aren't you? And here's why I'm putting it. It's still bad. It's not good. It's bad. It's really bad. Here's why I'm putting it on bad instead of awful. Because I believe Dolittle appeals to children. Now, the final scene where he's, spoiler, I guess, doing the whole dragon butt thing, Is that supposed to appeal to kids? I don't know. I don't know who that was for. But everything else is this adventurous, wondrous movie for kids, and the kids in my theater were absolutely loving it. I thought it was really bad, obviously. There's nothing redeeming about this film. Even Robert Downey Jr.'s accent fell completely flat, but, kids are going to like it. So it gets on the bad tier because of that. Then we have The Grudge, a pointless horror remake. It started this month off in the worst way possible. I mean, you could not have started this month off on a worse note. Well, I guess technically you have, but The Grudge still goes on the awful tier for me because it did nothing right, and there is one artistic shot at the end of the film that attempts to do something, but the credits are rolling, so it's too late, Chief. Then we have Bad Boys for Life, which is, it was actually a big surprise. This is a good movie, guys. It's a good movie. I had so much fun with Bad Boys for Life. I cannot believe I'm saying that. I expected nothing intriguing, nothing semi-engaging going into it from the trailers. I'm like, oh no, it's going to be another washed-up sequel, and they're not going to do our characters justice. And here's the thing, I'm not even that attached to the Bad Boys franchise, and this film made me attached. It is my personal favorite. I think it's a really good movie. It actually gets close to great. I can't quite get it there because I still have minor nitpicks, but in terms of what it was going for, it nails it. A lot of people were asking me, Austin, why didn't you review A Fall from Grace? Well, I technically did on Letterboxd and Patreon, I believe. I was going to on YouTube, and then I just know that Tyler Perry has this fan base that whether the movie's good or not, they come at you in such a way, I'm just like, I don't know if I want to go through that on YouTube. So I didn't review it on YouTube, and here's why, because it's bad. It gets really close to awful, but honestly, I think the acting was solid. Tyler Perry was solid. There were redeeming elements of the film, but after about 20 minutes, it didn't matter. It was stale, it was dull, until the third act when things escalate in this film to a level, like I'm talking Adventure Time Rick and Morty level. It is so outlandish, it makes no sense. And on that note, it was semi-entertaining, but A Fall from Grace just did not do it. It gets very close to awful, but for me, it goes on the bad tier. Ni no Kuni. Ni no Kuni, probably like, Austin, what's Ni no Kuni? It's a Netflix Japanese anime that I watched, and, I thought it was okay. I know a lot of people didn't love it. A lot of people were highly disappointed because it's based on video games that packs in a ton of lore into this 90-minute movie, and I understand why people were freaking out and getting upset. But for me, not knowing anything about the games, I was like, I like the story. I like what they were going for. The execution wasn't quite there. They could have done a lot better with this film, and if there's an attachment to that source material, I understand why people are upset. But for me, as an outsider, I thought it was pretty good. So another Japanese anime that makes it decently high up on this list. The Last Full Measure is a film that a lot of people were asking me to review, and I ended up watching it last weekend. I logged it on Letterboxd, as I always do, but I didn't put my review out on YouTube, and here's my review. It was okay. Here's what I'll say. The story was really good. The movie itself and the execution was honestly not that good. I had an okay time in the theater, but I can't quite get it to the okay tier because of the execution, right? It's not a bad movie, and I think a lot of people are going to genuinely enjoy it. And, a tear or two at the end of the film, it did get me with the emotion. And Sebastian Stan is good. Everyone in the movie is good. It's just the flashbacks and the lackluster elements of the story and the fact that the climax doesn't really hit you or affect you. What hits you is the emotion behind the true story. At the end of the day, I can't knock the story. I can only knock the execution. That's why it's on the meh tier for me. Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Now, once again, not putting it on my 2020 list. Here's why I'm talking about it. Because one, I didn't get to review it on this channel. I did talk about it on Letterboxd a bit. I did talk about it in other places. I think this movie is absolutely wonderful. I was, for some reason, debating on the great or the awesome tier. I have to put Portrait of a Lady on Fire on the awesome tier. It cracked my top portion of movies from last year. It's beautifully made, elegantly shot. The characters are fantastic. I wasn't as attached to elements of the story as maybe I wanted to be, and it's not perfect. I know a lot of people are saying it's perfect. I didn't think it got there for me, but I think it's awesome. It's an awesome film with beautiful characters, a beautiful story, and just one of the best movies to look at from last year. The fact that it didn't really get anywhere with the Oscars, and I know that wasn't even the movie that they wanted to represent them, and maybe that other film's better, but it's going to be hard to top Portrait of a Lady on Fire, man. In terms of 2019, that's up there for me. We're back to 2020. Murder of Nicole Brown Simpson. We're going to do something special for this movie. I didn't review it on this channel. I reviewed it in other places. We're going to create a new tier. Let's see. We're going to add a row below. We are going to change the color to the nastiest color. Well, that's probably not the nastiest, but it's the darkest color. And we're going to call it garbage. Oh, you can't even see that. Well, we got to let you guys see that. Let's do light gray. Oh, that looks better. Murder of Nicole Brown Simpson is garbage. Never had a garbage tier. I don't like talking about movies like this. I like celebrating films, filmmaking, all of those wonderful things. This is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It is. I encourage you to check out my Letterboxd review. A lot of people ask me all the time, Austin, what's the lowest rating you've ever given? I will say no more. I will say no more. It is from the creator of The Haunting of Sharon Tate, which was my least favorite movie of last year. This movie's worse. Oh, good God. I don't even want to... Nope. Next up is The Turning. The Turning, was awful. It was awful. I can't put it on the garbage tier because nothing goes on the garbage tier except the murder of Nicole Brown Simpson. But it was still awful. Lack of character development, lack of any sort of excitement, and then the ending. What ending? I don't know. What a disappointing film. The Gentleman is a really good movie that surprised me in the same vein of Bad Boys for Life. Now, I did expect Guy Ritchie to give us something, since he's in his zone, and this is what he's known for, right? This style and kind of movie. And you look at the cast. The cast is fantastic. But I didn't expect to have this much fun in the theater. I didn't expect it to hit me on the level that it hit me. And I didn't expect to have two really good action comedies with a bunch of famous stars, both of those movies delivering in January. Bad Boys, The Gentleman. Guys, you got some really fun movies in the theater. I encourage you all to go check them out. Next up is Underwater. Underwater goes on the meh tier. Not that it's bad. Some really cool elements. It actually gets way more epic than I anticipated, and I honestly thought Kristen Stewart was really good in the film. There are elements that are unbelievable. You'll get those with a movie like this, but there are also elements that are so ridiculous at times I just couldn't buy it, and I wasn't as locked in on this journey as the filmmakers want us to be. I still can't really remember any of the characters' names or anything about them. They did a bad job of building them up. Now, I like how you got thrown in at the beginning of the movie, but that's really the only thing that got us in that zone that we were in throughout the entire film. Really good elements, for sure. Not the worst movie I've seen all year, obviously, but Underwater, at the end of the day, goes in the meh tier for me. Then we have Troop Zero. Troop Zero is a movie that lit my heart on fire. This is an Amazon Prime original that I actually didn't review on YouTube. Once again, I feel like I'm saying that for a lot of these, but I did watch and I did review it elsewhere. It is such a beautiful movie. McKenna Grace, Viola Davis, Jim Gaffigan, everyone was so good in this film. It's all about a girl who wants to be heard from space, who wants to be heard from the stars. So her and her off-kilter Girl Scout group goes and competes in this competition. It's just so sweet. It's one of those lighthearted. Think Mud, but think for maybe a tad bit younger of a generation, but still really entertaining. It is a good movie at the end of the day. Some good films in January, folks. It's not what I was expecting. Also, some really bad ones. Just Mercy is not one of those. Now, I'm struggling. Good or great for Just Mercy. Man. My score indicates literally putting it right in the middle. It's not necessarily an Oscar-type film. It's more audience-friendly, but, I'm leaning great. I'll go great. This is another one that goes on my 2019 list instead of my 2020 list, but you guys know what this movie is. Michael B. Jordan, Jamie Foxx, a beautiful story, very well told. Dustin Daniel Creighton is the director here, and is it Dustin? I can't remember. But Short Term 12 is everything to me. One of my favorite movies of that year. Now, he doesn't bring that to this film, right? This movie's not on that level. But it gets very, very close to being one of the more thoroughly enjoyable movies of last year. And it really did a lot when it went wide in January. I believe it was January 10th. So if you guys haven't seen this film, it didn't do great at the box office, go check it out. It's very heartwarming. And the last one we're talking about is the most recent movie that I watched, and that is Gretel and Hansel. You might be wondering, Austin, you didn't review Rhythm Section. I still have to get to that, but it will be in February, so it's probably going to be on the February list. How does that make sense? I mean, I'm doing it as I watch them, so it's going to be on that list. But Gretel and Hansel, it tried, and it's very close to meh. The fact that it looked really good. I mean, the cinematography, there's no denying there was an attempt to make this movie better than what I feel like it ended up being. The problem here is it all came together to create such a sloppy experience that didn't really go anywhere. I felt empty walking out of this film. I was talking to 3C earlier today. We were having a discussion. We did a spoiler review on Film Strippers, and we're just like, we didn't feel anything. Like, it looks great. There's no denying that something was done to make this presentable to an audience. But it all comes down to the script for me. If the script doesn't work, it doesn't matter how good it looks. And it didn't work here. So I unfortunately have to put this film on the bad tier. Now we have reached the end where we are going to rank the movies and put them in order. You're basically going to see my 2020 list thus far with a few extras here and there. So at the bottom, obviously. And then this order actually looks pretty good. We're going to go with The Turning, and then The Grudge, and then Like a Boss. I am going to switch, though, A Fall from Grace, followed by Dolittle, followed by not Gretel and Hansel. We're going Ghost Stories, and then Gretel and Hansel next. Underwater right where it needs to be, followed by The Last Full Measure. And then I have Ni no Kuni and The Color of Space. Now we get into the top 6, and at number 6, I have Troop Zero, followed by The Gentleman, followed by Bad Boys for Life. And you know what? I was going to switch Weathering with You and Just Mercy, but this is actually in the order it needs to be. I have Just Mercy at number 3, Weathering with You at number 2, and obviously, the number 1 movie that I saw in January 2020 is Portrait of a Lady on Fire. And those are all of the movies that I saw in January, ranked in order and placed in tiers. And of course, I need you guys in the comments down below. How did you feel about the month of January? Did it deliver? What were the new releases that you saw that I didn't get a chance to see? And what would you recommend? And as always, if you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. Tomorrow, a big old thing happening on this channel. We are doing the first annual Movie House Awards, where we are giving you all the winners of all of the categories that you chose, you selected, and I cannot wait to do that. I truly appreciate you guys for watching this video, and man, I love doing these tier lists. They are so much fun. You're the best. I'll see you soon.